over the world, stored product pests continue to present an important threat and cause considerable damage to all kinds of raw agricultural and food commodities. With a growing emphasis on food security, increasing overseas grain trade, and an industry-wide requirement for all food commodities to be 100% insect-free, post-harvest techniques and novel approaches for insect control have evolved over the years. For this purpose, the Agriphar Group has developed TALISMA UL, a proven, ready-to-use grain protector which has undergone rigorous laboratory and field testing assessments to bring a highly efficient solution for farmers and grain bulk handlers against stored product insects. TALISMA UL combines the action of cypermethrin and piperonyl butoxide, solubilized in an ester of vegetable oil phase, which ensures TALISMA UL high-performance coverage of the grain. Cypermethrin is a long-term protection insecticide which acts by contact and ingestion by targeting the nervous system of the pests and interfering with the voltage-gated sodium channel. Its mode of action will lead to fast shock and paralysis of the insect, which will stop feeding and die. The action of cypermethrin is synergized with piperonyl butoxide. PBO acts as a proven inhibitor of the enzymes which would normally detoxify cypermethrin within the insect. By combining cypermethrin and PBO, the TALISMA UL formulation shows a broad-spectrum efficacy against all stored product pests and represents an ideal solution in managing the development of metabolic resistant strains within the pests. Altogether, TALISMA UL technology will provide a reliable long-term protection only when used following the directions recommended on the label. TALISMA UL is a protector which can be applied in all sealed and unsealed silos, either on farm, in large-scale facilities, as well as on combine harvesters, with a packaging adapted to all kinds of situation. When applied properly, TALISMA UL offers protection up to 12 months after treatment. In the European Union, and according to the Codex Alimentarius guidelines, the maximum residue level, or MRL, for most cereals is 2 parts per million cypermethrin, ppm, in compliance with consumer interests and food chain processes, such as brewing, bread or pasta production. Before using TALISMA UL, it's nevertheless recommended to visit the pesticide MRL's database in each country your grains will be exported to. TALISMA UL also offers no withholding period. This means that any grain treated by TALISMA UL can be processed straight away without any loss of time and revenue for the supply chain management. The key for protecting harvested grain is to use TALISMA UL properly. Firstly, TALISMA UL must only be applied once as admixture on bulks of wheat, barley, oat, rye, triticale or spelt, but can't be used on maize, rice, oilseeds or pulses. Secondly, TALISMA UL will provide a long-term protection from all insect infestation. When used preventatively, in a range from 4.2 to 8.4 litres of TALISMA UL per 100 tonnes of grain, TALISMA UL will protect the grain up to 6 to 12 months after application. When used as a curative treatment on already infested grain, TALISMA UL will offer action up to 3 months after application at the dose of 8.4 litres of TALISMA per 100 tonnes of grain. When handling TALISMA UL and connecting it to the application equipment, it's recommended for the operator to wear the following safety and protective equipment: overalls, goggles, gloves and respiratory protective equipment. The procedure for setting up your spray equipment can be described in 3 simple steps. Firstly, you need to calculate the grain flow rate through your grain handling equipment, the grain auger, the bucket elevator or conveyor. Secondly, you'll need to adjust the application rate to your requirements, either as a preventative or curative application, and the length of protection required. Thirdly, via these two parameters and a simple calculation, you'll determine the required output of the nozzle per hour to be entered in your spray equipment panel. As an example, a bucket elevator handling a tonnage of 110 tons wheat per hour. Your spray equipment will need to deliver 9.24 litres of TALISMA UL per hour for a 12-month protection against any pest infestation. The positioning of the nozzle in key locations of your storage facility will ensure that TALISMA UL is applied properly and will thoroughly protect your grain. For this, you'll need the expertise of your TALISMA UL's distributor to provide you with advice that meets your specific requirements. In general, it's recommended to apply TALISMA UL when the grain is moving or falling to get the best coverage possible. The foot or the top of a bucket elevator are ideal locations for TALISMA UL to be sprayed. In the case of flat or floor storage, the nozzle will preferably be positioned above the horizontal conveyor belt, avoiding direct contact between TALISMA UL and the belt itself. Finally, to ensure that TALISMA UL is applied properly and will get the best grain coverage, it's recommended to use a twin fluid nozzle with two fluid inputs, one for TALISMA UL, which is propelled from the reservoir, and one for compressed air, propelled between 1 to 2 bars. This will evenly cover your grain to make sure it's fully protected. Once these steps are completed, the grain flow rate calculated, the spray equipment set up and the application rate adjusted, the air compressor turned on, and the nozzle perfectly located, you can start your handling equipment, start your spray pump, and start unloading your grain. By following these guidelines, you can be sure that thanks to TALISMA UL, your grain and revenue are thoroughly protected.